Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm your host today, Val Pettigras, and with me, representing the 5th Assembly District, which includes Suffolk County, is Assemblyman Al Graf. Very good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
We have an on-time budget. I understand that there are some concerns with it, however, and we're going to get into those right now.
Well, we did get an on-time budget. Everyone was in a hurry to give the governor an early budget. But my point of view is an early bad budget is not where we're going to go. I was more than willing to stay here, hammer out the details. This budget here, I actually voted no on two portions of the budget. One was education, the other was health. The education portion of the budget, my schools got hit hard. They got hit harder than anyone else, so I didn't think it was proportionate. The other problem is the schools got imposed upon them two more unfunded mandates. One, we shifted the cost for from the state to the schools in special education. Then what we did is the 4201 schools, where it used to be paid directly, now we have to run it through the schools' budgets. So I just didn't think they did it the right way, and we didn't touch on mandate relief. We didn't touch on the MTA tax. There were so many issues in this budget that just weren't addressed. We had a great opportunity to fundamentally change New York State government, and that opportunity was missed.
Do you think that the legislature and the governor as a whole are headed in the right direction, though, as far as making the effort to get an on-time budget?
I think they're heading in the right direction, but I think they were running towards it when they should have walked and looked where they were going and looked for the landmines in the road.
Were there parts of the budget that you did like?
There was some cuts in the budget that I did approve of. Right? There were a lot of things in the budget that I did approve of, but there were some things that I just couldn't look. When I was out there talking to my constituents, I said, I have to look at the budget, and if it's palatable, then I'll vote for it. And I did vote for parts of the budget, but there were other areas of the budget that I just felt they were going the wrong direction. Let me give you an example. They cut 10 senior citizens programs by 50%. One of those senior citizens programs was adult daycare. And this is for people that have dementia, they have Alzheimer's, and the family's trying to do the right thing, and they're trying to take care of their parent. But they have to raise their own family, and they have to go out and work so they can afford to live, especially on Long Island, with the cost of living down there. So now what we've done is we've cut that program by 50%. You're going to wind up closing some of these adult daycare facilities. Well, these families are going to have no alternative except to put their loved one into a nursing home.
Which is heartbreaking in itself.
Right. However, and they're going to qualify for Medicaid, and the state is going to wind up picking up the tab. You look at nursing homes, you're talking $15,000 a month. That's what it costs. So the state actually stepped over $1 in this case to pick up a dime. And there were other areas in that budget where it was, they left blank spaces. And they said, okay, well, the governor will fill them in later. I'm an attorney. I have a problem entering into a contract where I have blank spaces and my opposition gets to fill out the terms. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. They were looking at funds they said that they were going to get in. They were going to collect taxes from the Indian reservations. And they were asked, have you ever collected taxes from the Indian reservations before? And their answer was no, but we're optimistic. Are you serious? Okay. So there were things like that in the budget that were just not palatable. And like I said, I don't think it was important to have an on-time budget as it was to have a good budget. And I just think we missed an opportunity here.
You touched on a few issues that need to be addressed still with legislative session or in legislative session 2011. What are some other issues that are on the agenda?
As well, right now they have the tax cap that they're talking about. They have rent control. And one of the things that's most important to myself and my caucus is fundamental mandate relief. Mandates are things that we impose on other levels of government. So we make them do something that will cost money, but we don't provide the capital to fund it. Basically, we tell people, look, this is a great idea we have here, right? You have to do this. We're going to put a law in stating you have to do this, and you have to pay for it. Okay.
And we don't care how you do it. You're going to have to figure out a way to raise the revenue, and usually that means an increase in taxes.
Right. Well, it's sort of like me coming up to you and say, look, you've got a nice little Toyota, okay, or you've got a nice little small Ford Fiesta, right? However, I'm going to pass a law that says, and we don't care about what your salary is, but as of tomorrow, you have to go out and buy a Jaguar. It's unrealistic, and that's what we're doing to people.
You know, when you talk about that, it reminds me of a few years ago here where when the smoking ban went into effect, before you weren't allowed to smoke inside anywhere, the state made bar owners and restaurant owners get ventilation systems. And you had to have that if you were going to have people smoke in your establishment. Then they said you can't even do that, even if you own the place.
Right, after they've made them pay.
Right.
Look, when I was a town supervisor, I came into a situation where they were closing town dumps. And they actually made the towns go out and drill these test wells. And it cost the towns a lot of money. Then when I came in, they decided, no, that's not good enough. Now what you have to do is you have to dig up all the garbage. You have to put in this membrane. Put the garbage back in. You have to have all these vents. Then you have to put another membrane over top. Then you have to put a level of sand. Then you have to put a level of gravel. Then you have to put a level of topsoil. Then you have to plant a certain seed, right? And you had to have vents. And we went, wait a minute. You had us put in these test wells, and they're testing negative. And the state looked at us, well, those test wells don't mean anything. Whoa, wait a minute. You made us spend all of this money. You ordered us to spend all of this money, and now you're telling us they're useless? Right? What are you going to tell me next time? Am I going to have to dig up the membrane and put something else in there now too? So, I mean, sometimes they pass laws and they just heap expenses onto local municipalities.
And we talked last time about one of your frustrations is when legislation comes up, the cost is to be determined.
Oh, yeah.
And it's never a dollar amount. It's always to be determined in the future. Well, you know, usually when you're going to implement something, you have to weigh that into the equation, and that never seems to happen here in Albany.
I think they have a money tree someplace. I can't find it. It's out there. They shake it, and $100 bills fall off. But, you know, sometimes...
They're called taxpayer dollars.
Well, you know, they live in a fantasy land sometimes. I hate to say it, but they have no clue. They go, this is a nice idea. Let's push this, but they don't look at the cost, and that's the problem.
Well, I know that besides ethics reform, one of the other issues that will be coming up this session is redistricting, or at least talk about it, because that's going to happen as of next year.
Yes, I just got a letter from former Mayor Ed Koch telling me that myself and a few others are being targeted for robocalls. I signed on to a pledge, New York Uprising, and I took that pledge very seriously. And what that was for, independent redistricting. And I did sign on to a bill that I thought was, in my opinion, gets me there. However, that's not the plan that Ed Koch wants. Ed Koch is now coming out to us and going, listen, here's the plan I want you to sign on to. I didn't see anything in that pledge that said I pledge to sign on to any bill that Ed Koch says I should sign on to. First off, his partisan colors are showing here. This bill will create one-party rule. They'll have one party drawing the district lines, and that's directly in opposition to the pledge that I signed. And that pledge, I still think that it's important to have nonpartisan redistricting. You know, and as an ex-New York City cop that worked under Eddie Koch, I'm really disappointed in Mayor Koch, or ex-Mayor Koch, because what he's doing is tarnishing his legacy, right? He's not a reformer. Basically, what he's doing is it's a partisan attack meant to force me or bully me into backing legislation that is directly opposed to the pledge that I signed. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let Ed Koch bully me into violating my pledge, because that's what he's asking me to do now. I signed a pledge, I signed onto it, and now Ed Koch is trying to use bully tactics in order to make me break my pledge. That's not going to happen.
Well, and I understand that there is talk about an independent redistricting commission that would be nonpartisan.
Right. And one other thing I have to bring up is with Ed Koch's plan, they actually have public hearings on it. None on Long Island. Not one. My constituents don't even get a voice in this. Not one hearing is on Long Island. That is not in the best interest of the people that I represent. So why would I sign on to that plan? Okay, again, here we go, back to New York City. It's all New York City centered again, right? And that doesn't serve the people that I represent.
When you signed this pledge, what were the terms of it?
The pledge was that I would sign on for a nonpartisan redistricting commission. What the pledge, the one that he wants me to sign on to, basically what you get is you get the Republicans pick 2, the Democrats pick 2. So the Senate majority will pick 2, the Assembly majority will pick 2, and then the governor gets to pick, and he has to have Republicans and Democrats on his pick. But these are his Republicans. Have you ever heard the term rhino? Republican in name only? So basically what you're going to have is it's going to be overweighted. You're going to have 2 Republicans and the rest are Democrats. How is that a nonpartisan? Well, I guess it's nonpartisan because the Republican voices will just be drowned out. They'll be outvoted right off the bat. It's not a fair redistricting plan. And this has got nothing to do with party affiliation. If you want to have a nonpartisan redistricting plan, then make it nonpartisan. Right now what he's doing is carrying his party's water for them. So, it's unsavory, it's uncalled for, and it's in direct conflict with what he was proposing in New York Uprising. So, again, I'm not going to be forced to do something that I know is wrong. I'm not going to be forced to, or blackmailed, to turn around and disregard what's best for the people that I was elected to represent. And, Mr. Koch can make all the phone calls he wants. All right, I'll get out there and explain to them why I didn't sign on to that bill. And the bill that I did sign on to, which Assemblyman Oakes put forward, which I thought was a lot more in the direction of a nonpartisan redistricting. And I hear I have people coming up to me saying, listen, just sign on to his plan, who cares? It's never going to get passed anyway. It's never going past the Senate.
But it's your name on the bill.
You go, sign on every plan. I said, I'm not doing that.
We're out of time, unfortunately, so we'll have to catch up with you on that issue as well as several others. But we do have time to let you out there know how to reach your representative. Please contact Assemblyman L. Graf at 859 Montauk Highway, Suite 1, Bayport, 11705, or give him a call at 631-589-8685. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Please join us for our next edition of Assembly Calendar.